What is up, everybody? It is Food Run, and we are here to talk about the most sensual things in the Yu-Gi-Oh community at the moment. Just when you thought this format was discovered, well, it's not. So, I definitely gotta say that I am super proud of this community because we all thought we knew what the fuck we were doing. And then, Lord and behold, like, Zefra comes out of nowhere, takes down a fucking UDS, and gets top 4 to YCS. Yu-Gi-Oh's evidently dead as well, guys. Like, right? 1,900 people to YCS, the game's totally dead. I love that fucking shitty excuse from some people in this community. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh's totally dead. But statistics and numbers don't mean anything when your local player base is dead, am I right? Statistical anomalies. So, Zefra. Now, I've seen some of the lighter builds trying to mess around with Astrograph and be like, oh hey, like we can still do stuff. I don't know if that was like the way to go. I mean, looking at the Bokum list, like Astrograph wasn't there, and a lot of people went to Pendulum Magician as the go-to deck of the format. They're like, oh hey, like no, like this is the shit. And I mean, like, I don't disagree. It pretty much was the shit. Like, it had consistency on its side, but on the flip side of the equation, so did every other deck, evidently. Evidently, World Chalice is a very consistent deck. Am I right? 60 cards. Zefra still has pretty much everything except for Dang Doodle. And Zefra Providence is a card that you don't want to necessarily fuck around with. Being a card that just gets you a free search for literally anything in your deck, and then turns into a preventative destruction once per turn. I don't think a lot of people understand just how much a preventative destruction actually means to a lot of devastating decks, especially having it be Return of the Dragon Lords, but actually just be attached to a search card. You know, I love free value, but that's the downside to like Return of the Dragon Lords. Like, you can't play it turn 1 if you don't have a monster in your graveyard. And Zefra Providence, I can do my thing, as long as, you know, my opponent doesn't do anything to particularly stop me, but I don't know what they're going to do. You can mash my Providence, I guess. Make me feel happy. But you have to ask yourself, going forward in this format, your supposed best deck of the format is still Pendulum Magician. The deck has the most variants running around it, whether or not be the Utopia version. God, fucking... Well, we'll go with the gimmick version and the actual good version. And by gimmick version, we're going to include the utopic version and the FTK version in there. You know, I was talking about yesterday, like, how most of my locals this past weekend was won because of the FTK. You know, going into a 9, 10, 12, 14 round tournament, you know, the FTK, it might not be that consistent. You know, you've got to pick your metagame choice based on the results of what you're going to do. And I definitely think Zefra was geared to be that decision, especially looking at this past weekend. A lot of people didn't know how to handle Zefra. You kind of just stare at Zefrath when it hits the board and go, oh, but like, what do I do? Zefrath turns into any pendulum scale, allows you to load up your extra deck for any particular one option that you need. Am I missing anything here? Like, does that seem inherently bad to anybody? That seems like the best value town that you could really get. And, you know, you also get all the good trap cards and all the other good stuff that your deck does. Plus, your deck has a pretty cool synchro engine built into it, so absolute free value. But in terms of the metagame being quote-unquote discovered, it's kind of nice to see that something came out of the woodwork past the current levels of discovered innovation. And it definitely breathes a good piece of fresh air into the air. We've got, what, quote-unquote 12 to 13 decks now that can compete? That's a fucking lot. You know, I definitely discounted World Chalice to be a tier 2 deck, and I don't think it's going up any higher on the chain because of this YCS win. We kind of just discovered that Soul Charge into Saruja is pretty good, but at the end of the day, the deck still kind of suffers from the same problems it's honestly had, and it is a brick. You know, I always make the joke, you know, like 60 card mystery or 60 card, you know, brick. But that's what they are, you know. If it starts, it starts. If it doesn't start, well, you know, fuck. Like, there's not really much you can do about it. That's why they're referred to as bricky decks. But once you go into a tournament like this and it succeeds, well, fucking congratulations, man. Like, more power to you. You know, your deck did what it needed to do. Stats and anomalies. Definitely not the best part of today's current format. This video has been brought to you by any math major ever, because the Dockumtumborg effect is now the Garnet effect, or as I like to call it, the Driver effect. I love drawing Driver. I don't know about you guys. Nothing like playing 3 Gamma and just opening up Driver every game. That's why I can't play 60 cards. Ugh, I love opening Garnet. It's so much fun. Stupid Yu-Gi-Oh! But this format, I'm not going to say that it leaves anything to be desired, but get it? Desired. But it's definitely going places, and I like that. The topic of World Chalice and Zefra being quote-unquote good decks. I still don't think World Chalice is all that great. I honestly think that this is more or less an abnormality. I probably Fluke is better to say than anything. But looking at it, having a one top showing out of, what, 2 YCSs so far, doesn't necessarily mean that it's all that great. I mean, anyone that we've seen this format can pilot anything to top cut. We've had ABC, we've had, what, 1 Spiral in America. I think we even had Paleo. And then, what, we had Magical Musketeers, top 8, the UDS. And just kind of out of left field, it's not a bad thing. It just proves that there's still room for discovery. But on the topic of consistency, I mean, sure, World Chalice has a great number of starters, but if from my understanding of playing the deck, if anything happens to the core normal summon and something happens to Brilliant Fusion, isn't that to the extent in which your turn kind of ends? You know, I've seen a lot of people talking about, like, oh, you know, like Max C being gone makes the format more diverse. Yeah, it really does seem that way. You know, with the way that it's going in today's current day and age, yeah. I think Max C being gone changes the way that people tend to play the game. You know, you make certain plays based on, well, fuck, if my opponent has the Max C, you know, like, I'm super screwed. Because a lot of people make the argument back in the day against Pendulum Magicians that the best time to Max C would be after the Pendulum summon on the effect of Harmonizing Magician to Special Summon. Which, if you did have the Max C and you did Max C before the Pendulum summon, certain Pendulum Magician players wouldn't Pendulum summon and just force you to lose the quote-unquote Max C. But if you Max C'd on the Harmonizing effect, you would basically be forcing them into the committed summon off of Harmonizing, and then they would have to make use of another card in their deck, either probably producing Omega to paralyze you out of a card to kind of float, or, you know, just be like, well, I'm probably just going to roll with my entire summon. But now, if we had Max C, it would probably be on the Astrograph special. But there's a lot of stupid shit that is kind of coming up now that Max C's gone. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Format is definitely a lot better. I'm definitely glad Max C's gone. Like, whew, thank fucking God for that one. But diverse top cuts at events, diverse anything really. You know, like, I'm not gonna say I'm not surprised by the amount of Draco that topped fucking this last YCS, because that was a lot. But Draco's kind of been discounted as this shit deck now, and I definitely consider Draco to be better than Paleo, even though Paleo didn't get anything hit from it, which is kind of ironic. Paleo still pretty much has everything going for it, and then meanwhile, True Draco lost Dynamite and 2 Return, and it's still a better deck. What a day and age we live in, when True Draco is still better than full power Paleo, basically. But I don't know, I'm extremely happy to see this. I know this is kind of a bit more of a rehash discussion from yesterday, but I wanted to clear up more opinions and shit like that. I still think World Chalice is a shit deck. I think Zefra is one of the coolest fucking things ever. tap into the game. Fucking love the way that deck functionally works. Kind of sucks it's using the same engine as Pendulum Magician, basically, with Dark Worm and all that. But you know what? Sometimes you gotta borrow some darkness from my old friend, you know, to be a cognitive deck and work. Especially in today's day and age, you know? Just because you don't feel like you're the brightest tool in the shed doesn't mean that you can't shine every once in a while, because, you know, sometimes you're going to need that other screwdriver that's really, 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 really small. And that's like World Chalice's time to shine. Remember, everybody gets one Spider-Man, so. But, are you guys happy with the way that the meta's going? I've heard a lot of good things. Heard a lot of, I hate Astrograph Sorcerer, please Konami, take care of it. That would be great, thanks. And I don't disagree with you. That would be actually wonderful. I think that card should be at 2. Heard the consistency of a little bit, but Konami's probably going to put it to 1 at some point. But Electromite is still pretty fun. So, alright guys, I'm going to go stuff my face now. Bye!